Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares, and we're delighted that you're with us in class today. We broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Kyle's engineering the broadcast at GCN in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. With us today for 2 hours, as most every Thursday, for years and years, Doc Ram, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Vincent. Could I get just a which more volume, please?
Yeah, let me reach over here and turn that up just a little bit. How's that? Is that better?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes. Oh, man.
Rick, it's
what a week
it's
this
great.
has been. And what a year this has been. And what a life this has been. And let's see on down the line. Creepy days. You knew I had a friend that died.
Rick, I was reading go ahead, say that again, please.
Well, go ahead. You were reading about it. You just go right straight to it.
You had a loss over the weekend, right? And it made the national news.
Yeah. A personal friend of mine was murdered. And the guy, last night's paper, the regional paper down here in Oregon, because it happened up in Portland, was laughing about it. And I can't even explain the rage that I feel toward white supremacists and racism. My father was my best friend in that many ways, but he was a racist. He had a name for every single kind of person out there, from a slope, a gook, he had names for everything. And so I grew up not wanting to be like that. And Arthur Ashe was a personal friend of mine, someone I played tennis with, and actually was at Forest Hills with him one time. And I never, ever felt anything until I got to experience the race riots of Philadelphia in the 60s when I was in graduate school. And I saw a change. I saw what some people do not like about blacks. I saw a change in the way of they work as a mob, which was different than individuals. But this killing, this murder, this man killed two people attempting to try to protect a Muslim woman on her way home from school. She had a black veil on, and the guy pulled a knife and started saying he had a freedom of speech to express his values of what he thought and what he thought. And an older man in his 50s tried to calm the man down and was immediately, his throat was cut. Just like that, he was dead instantly. And then my friend, who was 23 years old, had just graduated from Reed College with honors, was also knifed, trying to protect the woman. And a third person was also hurt and went to the hospital as well, but he survived. Now, this is an individual that felt he had a right to wield a weapon and threaten a woman that was younger than him, sitting, minding her own business, because she was wearing a veil. Now, you tell me what's wrong with America. And I blame the media. I blame the media because of their way of promoting and making sales excitement on the different BS that's going on all over the country with stoner cops that are white supremacists. And I'm drawing lines, and I'm going to say and be outspoken about it because I mentored this kid when he was a little child. His mother I've known her 37 years. His father, they're divorced, they're very close family, even though they're divorced. And Chris is the most gentlest man I've ever met. And his son was gifted. And I spent 6 years through Waldorf and other agencies mentoring this boy. He helped me move to my new home with his friend. And what a senseless waste. Because of what? And that's how I feel this morning.
Rick, it's very, very sad, as you say, and you mentioned the media. So I've been reading, of course, as many.
I blame the media for hysterical things that they do and the way they report it. Yes.
Okay. How about this 56
to do that? His so-called freedom of speech was to be able to wield a knife and threaten a woman. What's wrong with that thinking?
All right. Let's continue on with this freedom of speech thought process. Okay, so here we have Kathy Griffin. She's an alleged comedian. I don't know if she's a comedian. Her latest stunt I don't think was funny at all, where she grabs a cut-off severed head of President Donald Trump, with looks like blood on it. Okay, so she holds this up. So this is supposed to be funny. I don't think it's funny at all, and the media's carrying it. This is the same gal. I believe in, she was on doing a New Year's Eve event with Anderson Cooper, okay, in 2013, I believe. So she gets down and kisses Anderson Cooper's crotch live on TV. Now, this is an alleged comedian. This is the stuff that you see on national TV. This is the stuff that's supposed to be okay. So this gal pulls this outrageous stunt. Now,
concept of ethics and morals. And ethics, not to, cheat on your wife, but a moral man won't. And it's the distinctional difference in what's happening to our children today and the need they have for role models. That's the problem that we have today.
And so how do we find a role model in someone like Kathy Griffin? And so she does a post and she says, I am sorry, period. I went too far, period. I was wrong, period. Yeah, no kidding. She says herself that she, quote unquote, crossed the line in the video apology. Really? Absolutely. And I wonder, what would have happened during the Obama regime if someone took his head and did the same thing. Would that person be arrested? Would that person be in jail? Would that person be considered a criminal? And then we talk about free speech. Where does speech begin and end, and where does holding a severed head, a likeness of our sitting president,
not really a right? It's more like a privilege, like driving. You are allowed to drive, and you have the right to drive if you abide by certain kinds of laws and rules and standards. And that's why they call it a privilege, not a right. And to say, we have responsibilities, and one of them is what comes out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Think something, but you
I
can't
agree with that, and of course, I agree with that. And my mom used to say,
you can do something, but you can't. I mean, it goes down in levels. And basically, what I'm discovering, I was in a park this weekend, and I met some Christians that I really was impressed. And the guy asked me, do you keep God's laws? Do you obey the 10 Commandments? And I said, well, it's in levels of, thou shalt not kill. I have, unfortunately, killed in the line of protecting myself, protecting my family. Is that breaking God's law? I have been to India where I have seen Jains sweep with a broom away the insect ants so that they do not take a life on any level when they walk. At what level do you find peace, inner peace? And that's what we're really talking about, inner peace. That is the place where you are either with the Lord or you're not, and you're struggling. And that's the place that I have been very blessed right out of the crib. I was born with dialogue. That means I had inner dialogue with myself. I knew my own truth. Did not mean it's truth for another, and it has and will continue to change. But it has to do with inner peace. And there's something wrong with people today. And I can say it because I understand it. It's hard to articulate it. I mean, in terms of what inner peace might actually imply. I have anger. I got that from my birth father when he broke my neck at 5 years old. I didn't know about it until just recently. There's the x-rays. What happened was that he was beating up my mother, and at age 5, I went to defend her. So then I asked myself when I'm talking to this Christian, was I in sin when I was born? Did I come into this world with sin? I can tell you that most everything that everybody does is a learned behavior. It isn't you were out of the gate with bad genes. I've seen children that are 2 years old that are the most innocent, and why they say God has a special place for children and animals.
Yeah, I've said on the air that I wasn't born this way. I learned a lot of my behavior, things I like, things I don't like, as I have traveled through this journey of life. I learned to be careful of certain people and stay out of the way of radar guns. We'll be right back. Class, we're broadcasting today with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and Rick is going to be presenting one of his seminars. It's called ESP Induction, through forms of self-hypnosis. I have been to this seminar when he did it here in Missouri, and I think it's a fabulous adventure. I think you'll enjoy it. It's an 8-hour workshop, June 3rd, coming up very, very quickly, June 3rd. And it's at the Red Lion Inn in Salem, Oregon. Rick, if our class is interested in attending this, what do we do to come see Dr. Richard Allen Miller's ESP induction at the Red Lion Inn in Salem, Oregon on June 3rd?
Well, you can call me for details. I can get you hooked up. You need to make a reservation at the Red Lion. I'm going in there Friday night and leaving Saturday after the event. What I do in the beginning, you remember, and I love working with children because they work better even than adults, is that I measure and get a baseline on your ESP ability. And then for the next 4 hours, I discuss the work I did with Edgar Mitchell and the Apollo 14 mission studies. I explain how the system works. I take you through guided images and going to an altered state of consciousness, a very specific place, and then I measure you again. And that's that. And I was challenged on this model back in the 70s when I developed it for Navy SEALs. It was from a debriefing I did with Dr. Milan Riesel from Czechoslovakia, and I developed it for myself. And they brought in people like Sybil Leek and other very famous, Gene Dixon was there, Theodore Pericos, very famous psychics from all over the world, and I won the tournament. It was Duke University that did the study. I won the tournament by 2 orders of magnitude. If you're a psychic, I can show you how to improve your ability and fine-tune it. I can show individuals how to think with their gut and work with instinct. And now I understand even better how it basically is tapping into a future timeline where if your moment of listening to your future, if you're able to do and integrate that, it literally changes your past and is part of how one changes the movie.
Mm-hmm. Rick, so how do you address the question, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, if I come to this ESP induction workshop, can I learn how to win the lottery? How do you answer that question?
Actually, I've had 3 different individuals that took that course and then used it and won lotteries. But the lottery part is not about winning, because if you're supposed to win, you would anyway. And that's the thing between intent and purpose. I once used magic, my ability to change reality, for money. And I got the money, but I didn't get it the way I wanted it. A truck ran over me, and I collected my insurance while I was in the hospital. You have to understand the fine edge of what intuitions are and what they are about and why you use them. And it's more of a survival, making closer to spirit judgments. And that's why I've had inner peace, as I was discussing earlier, is that I'm in touch with myself and what my purpose is here. That's what we're all aspiring toward. This is another step toward that knowledge.
Rick, one of the things that you've posted on docram.com is about these stores that are closing all over the United States, and it's worrisome. It's worrisome that we are closing these stores. What do you? When we come back, let's talk about what does that mean. It seems to me that back in the 1980s, it used to be fun to go to the malls and just spend the day there looking around. I have no interest in doing that anymore. Have our tastes changed? Have our wallets gotten thinner? Have the prices gotten higher? Sometimes you just can't believe what you read on the internet. And that's, as you know, I live in a little hamlet of 100 people. Rick, you've been through here. There's nothing, absolutely nothing happening in our little hamlet here in Missouri. And so, in line with this store closing discussion, there's only one store that we recognize the name of that is actually opening stores, and that is Dollar General. And Dollar General says that they're going to open almost 2,000 new stores by 2017. That's according to Fortune.com. 2,000 new stores. So, and believe it or not, in our little hamlet, we have a concrete pad that used to be a bank, probably in the 1950s or 1960s, and there was a tornado that came through and left the concrete pad, but the bank blew away. So they never rebuilt the bank. There's a general store that is hanging on by a thread. There's a post office that has one handicapped parking space and no other parking spaces. We have a farmers cooperative. That's downtown. I just described downtown where I live. 100 people live in this little hamlet. 100. So according to the internet, Dollar General came to town. They built a store and they created 51 jobs. That's like a job for every other person in this town.
Yeah.
So can you imagine Dollar General being the big employer in our little hamlet? According to, that's what it says. They're going to employ, there are 51 Dollar General jobs in our hamlet. But Rick, according to what I read on the link at your website, docram.com, stores are closing all over, and I think it's absolutely true. I see a lack of commerce in most places. Now, Springfield, Missouri seems to be an anomaly. There's all kinds of building going on, and it's building that it's not sustainable. Restaurants on every corner, churches on every corner, banks on every corner. That's what's going on in Springfield, Missouri. Restaurants, churches, banks, and if there's a bit like a Burger King not doing too well and they close, they demolish the building. They don't find another purpose for it. They bulldoze it and they build something else right there. Another restaurant. That's the kind of stuff that's going on in Springfield, Missouri. And do you think these store closings are an indicator of something way more serious, like Radio Shack, 1,000 stores closing? Michael Kors is closing 100 to 125 stores.
Well, did you look at the further part of that article when they said which store is not closing?
Yeah, Dollar General.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? What does that say to you about money? Nobody has
well,
it.
It says to me that there's a lack of it. Yeah.
Everybody is feeling it. Yeah. Everyone. At every level, including those individuals that are set for life. I have a fear of what is about to happen, and I don't understand quite yet what it all means. I can tell you that Trump is most likely going to be assassinated. That's the way I read it.
I surely hope not.
I hope not, too, but that is what the Republican Party is all about, trying to set up an impeachment thing. Have you ever, in all of your history of life as a child, from Harry Truman on up, ever seen a presidential split like we are currently enjoying?
I have never seen anything. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen the lack of respect. You know,
yeah,
if you look at Donald...
It goes further than that, though. It goes way further than that. It's like what's going on now is that Trump is not playing by the rules. He's pulling out of the Paris Accord. Why?
Yeah, good for him.
He's unpredictable in that sense of it, and the good old boy network is not going to allow it, and that's how you, as a personal individual, can see what has happened to your State of the Union. It's not as you thought it was, and it's Agenda 21 is just the beginning. The whole purpose of all of this, and the trains that are 3 stories high with bars on the windows, like Auschwitz, it's going to go down really, really bad. And what will happen next is that there will be a revolt. And that has been timed purposefully to break the United States down into provinces, just like Kucinich and others have predicted, so they're easier to manage. We are in a police state. The people that are being picked to serve and protect are specifically... How many on your law enforcement right now have a shaved head?
Well, that's the trend. Shaved head, dark glasses, dark uniforms.
No accountability. None. And where Joey, others have been sending me pictures of these police that will go in thinking, okay, there was one video I saw last week where the guy was driving out of his car, and this patrol car was moving slowly through his neighborhood. What he did is he got out and started taking a picture of the police car, and the policeman then pulled a gun on him. How does that work? And who would allow that kind of an officer to be in your neighborhood with children? I've had enough. And I think it's time that everybody start realizing that this whole concept of race rioting and everything has something. The Civil War wasn't civil at all. That was another post I put from a friend of mine who is a wounded vet on disability and what he thinks Memorial Day is all about. That's another post I put down on my thing. And while I may or not totally agree in it, it is a feeling that's now happening with veterans, and thanks for your service. You know, the whole thing about war is money. And I notice that old Warren Ford isn't over there in Nazi Germany. He's over there selling tires and automobiles. Now that is what we are into with America and the land of the free.
Rick, you were talking about the police. You're talking, many of us have. I have as well. You're talking about the police, and I'm looking at a post. It's nj.com, as in NewJersey.com. And here's what it says. New Jersey trooper threatened to arrest woman unless she gave her phone number. So the rest of the article goes on, says Trenton, New Jersey, for the second time in 6 months, a New Jersey state trooper, that's the highest level of police in New Jersey, the state trooper, has been suspended and criminally charged over claims he inappropriately pulled over women to ask them out. So this trooper, his name is Eric Richardson, 31 years old, was charged on Wednesday with records tampering after an internal investigation found he repeatedly pulled over two women, pressured them into engaging into a romantic relationships, and then lied on official paperwork to cover it up. So now it says in the article, we are policing our own personnel. That's what the state police spokesperson, Captain.
That's a good thing about New Jersey.
Yeah. Well, here's something that I find interesting. I find interesting when the government has situations like this, where they breach the public trust, where they violate our trust, where they break our trust, where they break the law. What happens is they say, you know what, we're going to have to do better. We're going to have to do a better job. We're going to have to look at this better. We're going to have to investigate it, and we'll get back to you. What they don't do, or what we don't do, is fire them from the top. We don't fire the top guy, the top cop in New Jersey. We should start with firing him. And then all of his lieutenants across the board ought to all be fired. Now, does that sound dramatic and drastic? Absolutely. But, you do that a couple times, and then pretty soon, all over in police world, they'll say, you know what? Remember New Jersey? Remember what happened in New Jersey? We shouldn't let that happen. Now, how do I know that that works? Well, there was a guy by the name of Rory Ellinger, and he was an alleged representative in the state of Missouri. One of his co-workers, Jill Shoup, was an alleged representative in the state of Missouri. They sponsored and co-sponsored together a bill, a House bill, to make it illegal for anyone to own in the state of Missouri an AR-15, AK-47, a shotgun with a pistol grip of a specific kind, and any magazine greater than 10 rounds. Okay? You had 90 days to get them out of the state, destroy them, sell them, turn them in without compensation to the state, or you could be a felon, subject to jail time, prison time. Okay? That's what these two thugs wanted to do. We heard about that here at USA Prepares, and we exposed it. I called, and here it comes, I'm going to admit it. I called the Missouri State House, and I said, I don't have Rory Ellinger's number. I don't have Jill Shoup's number. Can you give me their cell phone numbers, please? I then got those cell phone numbers, and I gave them out over the air. And I suggested to our class that we call them and tell them whatever we think. And we did. The outrage was so great. I called the NRA. I got the information to Alex Jones's group. I got the information to Gun Owners of America, gave them the phone numbers, and that information was disseminated. And what happened, the outrage was so great, by the end of the next day, the following afternoon, on KMOV St. Louis television, Rory Ellinger was being interviewed, and he was complaining about the outrage, the yelling, the screaming, the telephone calls he got, the anger. And he was concerned. He was actually worried. That bill was dead right then and there. That's what happens. That's what happens when people get together and they're outraged about the confiscation of property, personal property, that was legal at one minute and then could be made not legal the next moment. Class, the reason I was telling you the story about the House bill to confiscate AR-15s, AK-47s, and so forth, is because I ran into another alleged state representative, Bill Ringgold, and his bill was to the right to farm. Actually, it's an amendment, the amendment to the Missouri Constitution, the right to farm. And I was against it because I already have a right to farm. I didn't want further regulations on farming, but that's what this was about. And so I happened to run into him at an event, and he didn't know who I was. He just thought I was just some farmer. And so I said, by the way, have you ever met a guy by the name of Rory Ellinger. Oh, man, that poor guy. Oh, geez, they really beat him up. You know, he came out with this bill, and, it was awful what they did to him. When he was talking about they, he was talking about us, what we did by calling him up and calling him out. So they remember, and that's why I say that we need to fire these guys from top to bottom. Jack in Missouri, welcome. You're on with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Jack, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello there, Vincent and Doc. How you doing?
Very well. How can we help you?
I would just like to make a comment on what Dr. Miller was talking about just a few minutes ago. I've been wanting to get this out on the air for a long time. As you know, I'm a veteran, and I spend a lot of time around veterans at VA hospitals and VFWs, different things. And I'm not saying I am part of an organized anything. And most of the veterans aren't either. But the powers that be listen to talk radio, and they're probably listening to you right now, and I would just like to inform them that if they do impeach or kill President Trump, there is going to be something coming at them that they have never dreamed of. There is a lot of veterans that are locked and loaded and just waiting to pull the trigger, and they're not going to do it around their homes. Washington, D.C. is going to be the main point. I'm not part of any organized anything. I'm just telling you what I hear and what I've been hearing for the last 2 years. It won't be fun. So if they want to go ahead and try to assassinate President Trump or assassinate him or anything, there is going to be hell to pay in this country. This is a warning, and I'm hoping the powers that be are listening, because they don't know what even 10,000 combat veterans can do. You know, I don't want anything like that to happen, but I see it coming. I see it coming, and I think they pretty well know this. I think that's why it hasn't happened so far. You know, there has been 2 attempts on President Trump's life before he became sworn in. So it's just a warning to the wise. You know, they better just back off with that.
You know what they'll do? They will find somebody and take them off their meds and handle them. That's how they've been doing it. That's what's happening to me. Others, it's crazy. And that physicist in England that just went to a meeting and now is a targeted individual is Exhibit A. I've had enough.
Well, there's I'm not going to say thousands. There's millions of veterans in the United States that have had enough. They've had enough.
Right. That's right. It's time we start to shake the tree and drop the ticks, because it's time for an accountability.
That's right. And as far as
Jack,
I know, there might be some organized militias around. I don't know. But this is not any organized anything. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing.
Jack, are you saying that people are just bringing this up over the last couple of years, that they want our country back, and they're tired with the tampering and the lying and the deception, and that if
yes, veterans.
Jack, did you want to hold on through? Did you want to hold on?
Sure.
You want to hold on through the break?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Doc Ram's with us. Jack in Missouri. Military veterans with us. USA Prepares instructors, both of them. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. Class, we're delighted you're with us. You know, I've got Jack, and Jack is with us. Doc Ram is with us. Jack called in, and he expressed some legitimate concern that I think everybody who is listening to this broadcast classroom feels about the safety of President Donald Trump. None of us wants any harm in any way, shape, or form to happen to him. I respect him. I like what he's doing. And I'm outraged. I'm outraged, as many are, about what Kathy Griffin did. Her, what she said was an attempt at comedy with a bloody head, severed head of President Donald Trump. I actually think she should be arrested. I think she should be arrested, and I think she should be prosecuted for what I believe is an attempt to possibly incite violence. And let's find out. Let's find out. You know, there are people who have been arrested for much less than that. There are people who have a cop will come up to a person, and the person will raise his or her voice to the police. Take a step back, and the police will say that's resisting arrest and arrest the person for an alleged resist of arrest. That's way, way, way less than what we're talking about here with Kathy Griffin. I'm really outraged. I think it's over the top. I think it's insulting. I think it's wrong. I can't think of any humor involved in this at all. I think it was poorly thought out or not thought out at all. This is crazy. And it bothers me. It bothers me that this would happen. That the media would even allow this to happen.
Or
it's wrong.
Time talking about it.
You know, it's one thing to say, you know, you disagree with the president and you think that maybe the president's not telling the truth. I'm really thinking about the previous administration. I'm not talking about the current administration. I'm talking about, you know, we're going to bring the troops home and then we send more troops. You know, things like outright lies. Okay, calling out lies. I think that's fine. Absolutely above board when you catch. When you catch a politician lying. I think it's fine to call him out. But it's not fine to take an image or show the severed likeness of his head all bloodied. I think that's absolutely wrong. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine having anyone's head. Forget it being just the president. Anybody's head is wrong. It sounds like a threat to me. Jack, am I wrong? What do you think?
Oh, no, that is very much a threat trying to entice somebody to do something. But to show you how things are different, as you know, I go to PTSD group every Tuesday. And I'm in group with a retired first sergeant from the Army who spent 3 years in the Marine Corps before joining the Army. He was talking on Facebook 3 years ago about Obama. And all he said was, he should be removed from office. And do you know you got a visit from the Secret Service for just saying that on Facebook? You know, well, that
doesn't hold a candle to
correct.
What Kathy Griffin did.
So that tells you how things are working right now. Mm-hmm. But I've been wanting to say this for a long time. The powers that be don't know what they're getting ready to get if they do remove President Trump. It's going to, a lot of innocent people are going to die, but a lot of people in Washington, D.C. are going to be running for cover.
And what makes you, Jack, what makes you say this? Are these rumblings? Are these things that you hear in your post-traumatic stress meetings? Are these just if you happen to be standing on a street corner and you're waiting for the light to change and the guy next to you says something? I mean, where does this come from? This man on the street? What is this?
I'll give you, for instance. A couple of weeks ago, one of my grandsons graduated from high school. I went to the graduation. We live in a small community. There was like 70 kids graduating. And I was sitting on the bleachers next on the gym floor where I could get a good picture of him when he came by. And before it started, you know, people was walking past. I had 5 different guys stop and ask me, "Are you locked and loaded? You got plenty of ammo?" "Yes." "Well, you're probably going to need it. I'll be getting in touch with you." And they went on about their business. That is just, I went, 3 years ago, I went to the VA in St. Louis, John Cochran, and I was standing outside waiting for my appointment, and this was when Obama was president. 2 black veterans walked up to me and just started talking. I was listening to them talk. I wasn't saying much because you don't ever know when somebody recording here or something. But you wouldn't believe the way they was talking about Obama and the way the veterans treated and watched it happen. You know, and that was just out of the blue, just standing there and never seen these guys before in my life. But I found out that neither one of them was from the St. Louis area. They was from smaller towns. So that's just the way the veterans are thinking. And all it's going to take is just a little bit to ignite them.
Let me see if I've got this right, Jack. I believe what you're saying is the veterans are clearly in defense of our president. Is that what you're saying?
No, they want President Trump. When they was
That's
talking,
what I mean. They want to protect him.
Correct. And they want to punish.
Okay. Let's make sure we're absolutely clear that your understanding and what you're saying here is that our veterans, the ones you have had contact with, the people that you are getting information from, want President Trump to be safe, alive, well, and continue doing what he's doing in office. Is that correct?
Correct. Very correct.
Okay. So I want to make sure there's no mistake about what you're saying. Okay. Well, I want the same thing. I want him to be healthy, happy, vibrant. I want him to continue protecting and serving and making America great again. That's what I would like to see. And I'm kind of happy with what he's doing. I really am. I love the fact that he's standing up to the special interests. I love the fact that he's a businessman and he thinks that our country is job number one. I love that. We haven't seen that in decades where the United States of America is considered job number one. I love it. You know, Jack and Rick, here's what I'm seeing.
Not since John Kennedy have we seen this. You know, I was just 11 years old when John
Here's
Kennedy
what I'm
got
seeing.
But I remember.
Mm-hmm. There's a sense of pride that has come back, and with John Kennedy, it was America is going to win the space race, and we had leaders, we had icons, we had people whom we looked up to, and since then it's really hard to think of anybody who we look up to. But now we've got one. We actually have a president who I can look up to. I think that when he goes out and speaks and says his mind and meets with other nations, leaders of other nations, that he has our interests at heart. He is not working on backroom deals to line his pockets. I really believe he's on our team.
He's also the only president. He's also the only president since John Kennedy that's not accepting a salary. So that tells you something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I wish him the best. I hope that he is not attacked in any way, shape, or form. And I wish the media would back off and not do these stupid things. And these Hollywood people that we see coming out day after day after day on the negative, attacking him. I have lost respect for so many of those actri, the actresses and actors who, before this, we thought they were probably okay. We'd look at the roles they played in the movies and we'd think that they're okay. And now we see their true colors. Some of them appear to me to be on the other team, not on the American team. I'm not sure what team they're on, but I don't think they're on our team. And it bothers me. Jack, I'm really glad that you brought this up. Rick, your thoughts?
Well, I absolutely started this conversation. That's why I thank you for, by the way, for speaking out yourself. I really appreciate not being out there alone, but something's wrong with our country right now, and I have some questions.
Rick and Jack, here's something that, we're here. One of the things that we're seeing is people are doing weird things.
Reception on you guys. I don't know if you realize it, but your voice is so gravelly that it's either my server, whatever. It's something else is going on. I have been targeted by something. And I'm just a sweet old man that is non-political, really. I'm non-religious either. will speak about spirit and speak about inner peace, but I tell you, I don't know. But what I do know is this is no longer the country I served or protected, and there's a high likelihood that it was not that way even when I did serve, and I was duped. And that's what I feel. And I can only guess what other veterans are now starting to feel across the country regarding the idea of war. It's crazy.
Jack, let me ask you a different way. Are you saying that the veterans are going to rally against saving our country? Is that what you're saying?
They're going to rally to save our country. They're going to
rally to... I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Rally to save our country.
You're correct.
That's what you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
So the veterans are going to rally to save... Doc Graham's with us, class, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. And Rick's got an event coming up that it's called ESP Induction. And if you'd like to go...
Sad that Grace isn't going to be able to join us this one. We were all of us looking forward to her visit, and it had got canceled because of an event thing that's going on. But we are looking forward to her next visit here, because we all miss her.
Grace Thorne we're talking about. ESP induction through...
The thorn in my behind.
ESP induction through forms of self-hypnosis. It's an 8-hour workshop.
I train SEALs on, so I've been doing that workshop for almost 45 years.
Okay. And it's at the Red Lion in Salem, Oregon, Saturday,
June 3rd.
By the way,
is being sponsored by the same people that put on the comic convention that billed me as the real Dr. Strange. What they're trying to do in this event is to change over. I'm coming out with Metaphysics 1, which is the first of 15 audiobooks. And the topics that this particular one cover include introduction on what metaphysics is. The second one is on dreams. The third is on Sat Mat, a form of meditation, on the practice and ritual of ceremony, numbers, time, QBL, an introduction to pathworking, and then enflamement. And then the final one on this one is on the ontology of mystical states. And that's Meta 1, the first of my 15 audiobooks with download libraries and rare manuscripts that you can't find anywhere are all part of this audiobook download.
Sounds exciting, Rick.
It's
Jack,
it's me coming out of the closet on talking about the new directions in science, dealing with altered states and how you can do things. I watched a woman rip a door off to save her daughter in a burning automobile. And the fact is, it is impossible for her to do that. Her bones would have broken first. How does that work? That is a new direction in sciences. In physics.
I saw something similar when a man was trapped in a burning vehicle, and Dr. Howard Shane and I were trying to get him out, and I couldn't budge the door, and I was breaking the windows in the burning car, and a couple guys, I mean, the door was swedged shut because of the impact of the crash, crumpled the door. A couple guys just grabbed it and ripped it open. It was pretty impressive.
That is,
Jack,
that is an altered state that does that. And these are not to be feared, but tools in our toolbox toward the evolution of consciousness in man.
Jack, in Missouri, you had called about the veterans. Now, you had mentioned that the veterans are not, the ones that you are hearing from, are not organized. You are not organized. Are you saying that this is going to be a spontaneous kind of defense of the United States of America from the veterans? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes, nothing is organized. I don't belong to any organization, no militia, anything like that. But I'm just telling you, one
National Guard,
one veteran knows two veterans knows, it just goes on and on. And all it probably would take was a couple of phone calls, maybe quite a few together, you know.
And what do you see happening? I mean, if you want to say, if you don't want to say, don't say it. Is it going?
I see a slaughter. Is what I see. I see a slaughter of anybody in the federal government, and anybody gets in their way. That's what I see coming.
That would include law enforcement if they had shaved heads and were trying to be, I don't know, what do you call that place where they think they are above the law?
Well, notice when those shaved heads when there's two of them and there's five facing them, they're not so tough.
That's the way the movie played it.
That's really sad. It's really sad that we've gotten to this point. Jack, is there anything else you want to share with us?
No, that's all I need to say. Thank you, Vincent and Doc. I hope you have a good seminar.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much for calling in, Jack. Dr. Richard Allen Miller and I will be back right after these few short commercial announcements, and DocRam.com. Class, as you probably know, I live on a farm, and to get to the farm, you have to travel across a dirt road. And this story is germane to what Jack and Rick were just talking about. Our son was having a chat with a neighbor who's also a farmer, and everybody around here is pretty much a farmer. And most people raise cows here. And our neighbor was telling our son, yeah, you know that low water bridge in front of your farm? What's a low water bridge? Well, it's a concrete pad at the lowest point of the dirt road, so that when the water from the creek that runs almost all year long runs across the road, it runs across the concrete portion rather than eroding a spot through the road and making it unpassable. Well, our neighbor was telling our son that during the 1950s that our neighbor's dad and a couple other farmers got together because the road kept washing out. And the county didn't do anything about it. So the farmers got together, and they must have had some 55-gallon barrels, or drums as they're called, and they cut the ends of them out to make a tube, and they welded a bunch of them together end to end to end, and they made their own culvert. And they dug out the road a little bit and more, and they put this newly fabricated steel drum culvert in place. And they covered it with dirt, and that got covered with concrete. So they made their own low water bridge. Who did it? The people who lived on the road. Did they build the county? No. They just did what they thought was necessary to protect their interests and make it a little easier for everybody who lives on this road. That's what they did. I have a feeling that what Jack is talking about, Jack in Missouri is talking about, is that our veterans are going to come together to rally to defend the United States of America from those who want to harm her.
Yeah.
And that's all he's talking about. And he's saying it's unorganized. It's not a group. It's just a bunch of people who will probably come together to defend what they think is right. Just as the farmers...
On all of this. The bad news is that Israel last week arrested 400 Palestinians for future crimes.
Yeah. And, that's another outrage.
Also, watch and see how that plays in America. The use of three-letter bureaucracies using computers to predict and guess who's going to be bad and who's going to be naughty.
Kyle in Montana, welcome.
I think that Google and Amazon and all the rest of them are the ones being criminals.
Kyle's just joined us from Montana. Welcome, Kyle. By the way, thank you for the care package that I just got yesterday.
Good. I am glad you got that, and I'm glad you'll enjoy those jalapenos. I think they are very incredible.
A package, class. A package arrived, and it said liquid. And Mrs. Finelli said, "Wow, what's that? What did you order?" And it was from Kyle and his wife. And thank you so much, Sharon. Kyle, how can we help you?
Well, I was just going to, I know you know who Steve Quayle is, but talking about Jack and what happened, I don't know if you're familiar with a man named Henry Groover, but he is, Steve Quayle interviewed him, and the man has been 100% correct in the things that the Lord has shown him that is going to come to pass. And one of the things that he predicted is that we will see an uprising in this country, and it'll turn into some kind of a civil war, at which point the United States will be kind of weakened, and that we will be set upon at that point by Russia and China. And so it'd be interesting. It would behoove people before you go jumping to do stuff quite so quickly. Think about the long-term effects of it, and also I would highly suggest. I think you can just punch in on YouTube. Steve Quayle interviews Henry Groover, Gruver. But it'd be worth a listen.
I'm willing to also say that I remember a quote by Edgar Casey that said it will be the bear that saves America. And while Putin is a criminal and is possibly, just like everyone else, a serious criminal, he also has a different relationship and has done more for Russia than any other leader in their history. That's a fact. And basically, one of the things that I approve about Putin is when he was in the United Nations and he said, quote, "You want to come to Russia and be a Russian, you speak Russian." Now, that got a 5-minute standing ovation from everyone. Why?
Yeah, you know, the thing that we admire about Putin, and that most of the Americans that have got any common sense admire about Trump, is that they're nationalists. And there's something that says this country first. And people admire that, and they will support it and fight for it,
And that's one of the reasons why I think Trump respects Putin as much as Putin respects Trump. Nationalism is the correct word. Thank you.
Yeah.
And there's those who believe that Vladimir Putin could be the world's richest man with about $200 billion in net worth. Vladimir Putin.
Number 3, yeah.
Well, okay. Most people think, Bill Gates. And,
no. But Putin is number 3 in the world right this moment. And there's a war going on. You can damn well count on that one with money and the whole construct of I love money. And that's a friend of mine on my Facebook. That's a new piece of artwork she made, anonymous, look like Baphomet with 2 fingers up and 2 fingers down. The Baphomet, by the way, is the symbol used by most masonry.
And what about the music industry using Baphomet?
So it's a bunch of young kids like the Republican Party that do not know goat turds from pork and beans. You're talking about Black Sabbath and others that were like that started that movement. That's one of the reasons I decided to become a world authority in the so-called occult, so that I'm here to give you the straight answer like I try to do with physics. It is
Rick and Kyle, let me share something.
Enoch aside.
Let me share something.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
We got a tough time today because I'm looking at almost a 2-second delay on transmission. We're having slight technical difficulty.
So very poor signal from you. Your voice is gravelly. That's because the sun
let me share this with you.
Actually radiating as we speak in a longer UV than it's harmful to be out in the sunlight right now. And I'm concerned and want to make a brief statement about the coming eclipse. Be very, very careful how you choose to watch the eclipse, because the radiation band coming off the sun right now will damage your eyes.
So do not look do not look directly at the eclipse with your eyes.
Unless, of course, you have special filters that have been designed to screen those things. And Polaroid will only do a certain level, and it's still harmful because of the long ultraviolet that's coming off the sun right this moment. And why the sun is radiating that, I have no idea, other than there are some extra celestial bodies in our solar system right now as we speak. And nobody has a clue where they came from.
Let me share an article with you, gentlemen, about something that has appeared on therap.com. It says the Justice Department was sued by a privacy group seeking information on the FBI recruitment of Best Buy employees to search computers looking for child pornography during repairs, a practice that came to light in court documents in a recent Santa Ana, California case. What they're saying is that the FBI has recruited Geek Squad employees of Best Buy to look and give them rewards for finding child pornography on computers that these employees of Best Buy were servicing. There's a problem with trust here. How do you... Now, I am not advocating child pornography in any way, shape, or form. Okay? I'm not. However, I think it's wrong for employees of a company that you hire to service your computer to go looking based on a reward or payment by a government agency to find things. Because when you turn over your computer to someone to repair it, you're not thinking that they are looking to give information to the government to have you arrested. But if they find it, that could happen. Now, what happens if... How about that case where the girl was doing cartwheels? You know, a young girl, maybe 4, 5, 6 years old. She was doing cartwheels in her nightshirt. And the nightshirt fell down just as the camera shutter snapped. And that picture went on was taken. And the girl was nude, you know, because her nightshirt came down. And the parents were arrested. Now, they didn't say, go do a handstand and let's take a picture of you. They didn't do that. It just happened. Now, what happens when your computer's being serviced by Best Buy and they find something like that? And then you get arrested. Something's really wrong here. Can you trust a company that does that? Class Kyle's with us, Kyle in Montana, Rick Miller, and just to wrap this up, so there's an article called on therap.com, and it's about how the FBI has recruited. And let me just say that the FBI, according to this article, has refused to provide records to this group that wants to find out more about the Geek Squad looking into people's computers and reporting them to the FBI. They are denying, they're saying that the agency's policy is to not confirm or deny ongoing investigations. But court documents in federal court in Santa Ana, California argue that the FBI has launched a program of training and paying Geek Squad employees to look for child pornography on customer computers sent in for repairs and then report the porn to authorities. It says the OC Weekly first reported in March that court documents revealed an extensive secret relationship between the FBI and Best Buy's Geek Squad, including evidence that the agency trained company technicians on law enforcement operational tactics, and shared lists of targeted citizens to and covertly increased the surveillance of the public and encouraged searches of computers even when unrelated to a customer's request for repairs. So what we're saying, or what this article is saying, is that Best Buy's Geek Squad is searching computers. They've been encouraged by the FBI. They've been trained by the FBI. They've been rewarded by the FBI, paid by the FBI to do this. Now, how can you trust a company to not put, pornography on your computer? Well, how can you trust them to not do that? Am I going to bring a computer to Best Buy? Absolutely not. Am I going to step into a Best Buy store? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Kyle, is there anything that you wanted to share? Kyle, is there anything else that you want to share?
I'm at a loss. I'm just going to stay quiet. I think people know how I feel about things. I know I don't know what's going on. I wished it was a lot clearer, and I wish for the old Charles Kuralt forms of news.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Rick, let me share something else. I know we have very little time left. I measured when we drive our Dodge pickup truck. It has an outside thermometer, and it reads on a display what the temperature outside is. And it's great when it's really cold out. And during the 250, 60, 70,000 miles on this truck, actually 300,000 miles on this truck, I've noticed that in the winter, that in the cities, as you travel through a city like Louisville, temperature goes up. And I noticed in the summer, when you travel through the cities, temperature goes up as compared to the countryside. And now there are articles being posted saying, you know what, we ought to paint the roofs white in cities. And if you look at the roads that absorb the heat from the sun, the dark roads, if you look at the roofs in the city, if you look at the energy consumption, heating houses, with oil and natural gas and electricity, it drives the temperature.
Water from cement.
It actually the temperature is hotter. And my numbers are 8 to 10 degrees, roughly, hotter in the cities than in the countryside. And that's what this article said. It agrees with, or we agree with it, or it agrees with us, or both agree that it's true. It's absolutely true. What do you think?
Well, that's one of the reasons why Trump is pulling out of the Paris Accords.
Okay. And what will that do?
There it is. Read it and weep. Make your own decision what you think is going on.
Okay. And let me share something else. We have an outdoor wood stove, and it has a smoke pipe. And there was a couple trees growing next to it. And I said, well, let's leave them there. Let's see what happens. Do you know, Rick, that those trees grew faster than the surrounding trees? The trees where the smoke, the carbon dioxide goes up through the leaves, I would say they've grown 20% faster or more than the trees that are not having the smoke go through. What do you think about that?
Because that's our lungs for the earth.
Yeah, the trees.
That's correct.
Photosynthesis. Rick Miller, thanks so much. I wish you the best of luck with your event on Saturday. Class, if you'd like to see it, docram.com. Go to docram.com, and I think you'll get a real benefit out of attending Rick's event.